listening to
A to the K.
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 A to the K. WrestleTalk podcast.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.
And now it's time for This Week in Wrestling. Carl, would you like to start us off with the Raw results?
Sure. I'll kick it off with the best show of the week.
No, let's start with Raw.
Anyone who's not watching on YouTube, my head is shaking vigorously. So, the rundown of the card for Raw this week. I shit you not. I talk about this as a joke every week. But no, we have a guitar on a pole match. Because of course we do.
This actually happened.
Elias taking on Jeff Hardy in a guitar on a pole match with Jeff Hardy picking up the win. Shock horror. We have the women's tag titles on the line, Anthony. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler taking on the formidable team of Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke with the champions retaining. Shock
Can you
horror.
see the enthusiasm in my face?
Yeah. Yeah. You've never looked so excited.
I'm so excited.
We had R-Truth taking on Bobby Lashley, with Bobby Lashley picking up the win. Wasn't for
Why?
the
Just because he's not put him in a half Nelson in a while. What's that for?
Exactly. You know, must be. We carried on the Survivor Series qualifier matches with a triple threat of Keith Lee versus Sheamus versus Braun Strowman. Even though Keith Lee and Sheamus have already qualified, and who knew? Braun Strowman would win the match. Okay, because we didn't know that based on, the fact it was a qualifier match and Braun Strowman was the only one who hadn't qualified. We then had, Survivor Series teammates, one-on-one, Nia Jax taking on Lana. And Nia Jax won.
This week was so good that they give us Nia Jax twice.
They did. Nia Jax twice. And guess what else we got for an additional time? Another table
I think this
spot.
is number 6, is it?
I think it might be. I think it might be 7. Who knows?
Might be 7.
Who knows? We also got the New Day taking on the Hurt Business, with the Hurt Business picking up the win.
Wait, so we got to see Bobby Lashley twice.
Well, he was there. He didn't wrestle in this match, but he was there. Yeah. We got Ricochet taking on Tucker.
Obviously.
And it was a fucking
rivals.
squash match with Ricochet picking up the win. So
when Ricochet's squashing you,
bye-bye, Tux. Yeah.
Oh, friends, I've not said anything about you in a long time, Ricochet, but just where they put you on the card at the minute, if you're squashing people, they are squashed.
Oh yeah, our old friend of the show, Rick O'Shea. We've not done this in so long.
I think he was the first one, wasn't he?
He was. Poor Ricochet. And the main event, Anthony, surprisingly was a match this week. It wasn't actually a segment of a moment of bliss or anything.
But did it carry on after the show ended?
I mean, as is tradition, of course it did, because we can't finish anything, on time anymore. But yeah, it was a 2-on-1 match with Drew McIntyre taking on Miz and Morrison. Morrison.
Oh, oh.
Hey. Oh. And it was Drew McIntyre picking up the win, unsurprisingly. So, highlights, and they are few and far between. So, the opening of the show was the highlight, which is never a good thing. So, it was action-packed. Randy Orton come out, cut a really good promo, how he's no longer a legend killer. He's now a legend, and he's proven that by beating the likes of Drew McIntyre. But he's aware he's got a target on his back. Pretty much name dropped everybody, The Fiend, Drew McIntyre, Miz, everyone else who's kind of vying for him. But then who comes out? Alexa.
Ah.
And for everyone's echo devices going off right now, I'm sorry. But yeah, Alexa
Do it again.
comes out. And yeah, basically, she comes out and stares at Randy, all creepy as she is at the moment, and then goes, "Well, he could be here." And the Fiend music hits, and it's oh, it's the Fiend. And then nothing happens, and we turn around. Drew McIntyre comes out and hits a Claymore.
Well, him and McIntyre buddies now, so he lets him do stuff like that.
Well, exactly. maybe that is the case. But then, Randy Orton's pretty much done. Drew McIntyre's like, yeah, I've hit my Claymore, I'm going to walk off. Then The Miz comes out to try and cash in his Money in the Bank. So as I said, it is action-packed for an opening. But Drew comes back and goes, nah, you're not going to cash that in, throws him out. And the match doesn't happen. And
That's
technically,
Drew's new mission. You're not going to cash this in ever. I'm just
Exactly.
going to keep throwing you around.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes the new table spot where every week The Miz tries to cash in and Drew throws him out the ring.
Drew just becomes a schoolyard bully, steals his case and throws it.
But yeah, so apparently it didn't count because the bell was never rung. Therefore, the cash in has not begun.
Of course, that needed explaining, so probably wasn't the best idea.
True. And then another highlight, Anthony. I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I popped for it because when we did our WrestleMania kind of predictions of like dream cards or whatever, this is something I spoke about. And is this foreshadowing? Sheamus asked Drew McIntyre to join the Survivor Series team because they are such good friends and they go way back. And Drew's like, do you know what, man? I'd love to team with you again, but I can't because I've got my sights set on getting that title back. I want to see Drew Sheamus. I want to see it.
I'm not against it. I've not said a lot of great things about Sheamus since the inception of said podcast, but that isn't anything to do with Sheamus. He's a very talented guy. It's more the fact that like since he come back, they had him randomly squash people from NXT, dislike Jeff for being Jeff, and then sort of join a group with Corbin. Like he hasn't. It's just poor booking, I suppose. I've been complaining about, but no, I'd be up for that. Yeah, a bit different, bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, I'm definitely keen. Definitely keen to.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, that was it for the highlights, Anthony. So
that was quick.
Knee deep in the O'Shites. So I mentioned it as the first match of the night, a guitar and a pole match. Like,
who'd have thought they'd do an on the pole match? The amount we joke about that happening
are they
as like one of the
us?
examples. They must be, but they don't seem to realise that we were listing that as kind of an example of a ridiculous thing to do.
Like, I feel like every time we chat about something and go, fucking hell, they are really bad at this, or, this is awful, they go, like, it turns up the week after. Like, I'm not being funny. I reckon it's that Adam Pearce guy. I reckon he sat there, because who knows what the fuck he does. I think he is just a podcast listener. And he's picked us up, he's listening to us, and he's going, pole matches? Oh, we could do guitar on a pole. And, like, yeah, it must be.
Is that true, Adam? I jest, of course.
Of course. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it was fucking stupid. Like, I'm not a fan of on a pole matches anyway because, it defeats. Like you battle the whole way through a match, all the way to get whatever's on top of the pole, and then you can like use it as a weapon or whatever. Like if it's a pole match where you get to like that ends the match, and that's kind of more favorable. But when it's like, oh, we've got a guitar on the pole, and whoever gets the guitar off the pole first can use it as a weapon. It's like, well, okay, so it's a no DQ match. Why wait and get the fucking guitar off the pole? Go into the ring where there's fucking a gazillion weapons, or just twat someone with a sledgehammer or a chair. Like,
or it can only be hit by the guitar.
Yeah. What? So I don't know.
For me, like I don't like on a pole match at all. I think it's like a discount ladder match, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they've got. Can we do this? I'm not getting the ladders out. They're all the way in storage.
They can climb a pole.
There's a pole.
Okay.
It's just I don't like it. I just feel like it's got less stakes, hasn't it, than a ladder match, but it's essentially the same idea.
Yeah, I think probably the funniest thing though of the whole night maybe was after the match. Byron Saxton is there, and he's like, "Well, hopefully this ends it now between Jeff Hardy and Elias." And it's like, fucking hell, mate, say what we're all thinking here. Like, yeah, we hope it too. Like, fuck me. So who knows? Like, I honestly hope it is the end. I think, Jeff, since he's come back, has just been booked horrendously. He's been in some terrible angles around substance abuse and whatever. And now he's in this thing about fucking, well, it was Elias who was the one who fucking, Elias after Jeff, isn't he? Going, you're the one who fucking ran me over or whatever. And yeah, it's just shit.
he was after Jeff, but then Jeff made a point of interrupting his concert. Like maybe you can understand where he's coming from, Jeff, and maybe explain that you didn't hit him with your car.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's never happened.
Kind of the
really?
stupidest reason for a feud I've ever seen.
I think he said it once. He was like, "It's not me," but he didn't go. Well, obviously it was Sheamus. Here's all the facts.
It's the overwhelming amount of evidence.
Yeah. Then also Elias is just like, no, it's definitely Jeff. And everyone's like, no, it's definitely Jeff. So yeah, it's just been bad on both of them.
We're saying that there's no way you could have booked it. It's like, it's Jeff, and everyone's got, no, look, here's the overwhelming amount of evidence that it's not. And he's like, no, it wasn't. And that's the end of it.
I take it all back. So
boy, is my face red.
The next one, Anthony, is we had the women's tag match, and it was fucking shite. So for some reason, Lana came down and was at ringside.
Of course.
Who knows what for? Really? Like,
I mean, she knows what her destiny is. Doesn't fight it anymore.
Well, she came down for no reason whatsoever and stood there. And then I'm guessing she was meant to be like trying to get one over on Nia, who like had put her through a table every week, but ultimately ended up costing Mandy and Dana the match by accident, and then subsequently ended up going through a table again. So
I mean, I can see what the long-term booking is here. I mean, come on, we've had Lana come out, get squashed by Nia Jax, get put through a table, 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 every time by Nia Jax. So they're clearly going to end up facing off with each other at a pay-per-view, and the match is clearly going to be a ladder match.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, like,
Who knows?
I don't know. Where do you go with this? It's not even like it's very one-sided.
Announce table on a
like we
match.
can.
Could be.
But no, like genuinely, like you can't even at this point. It's been like 7 times, possibly maybe 6. Like there's no coming back from that really in terms of like that's it. I've had enough. Let's have a match. Like it just feels massively one-sided now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to speak about it for longer than it needs to. I just think, well, what was the point in her being out there anyway? It doesn't make any sense. So the next one, Anthony, is another R-Truth segment. And so apparently R-Truth accepted a match to fight Bobby Lashley. And so he'd get interviewed and he's like, no. I thought I was accepting to meet Bobby Boucher from the Waterboy. I want him to sign my water bottle.
That is the most dated reference I have heard on Raw
I shit you not. I know. What can we do?
They don't realize that Adam
Sandler's from
Sandler's
1999. Okay.
Adam Sandler's been like out of the game that long that he's now trying to win a fucking Oscar. He's nowhere near that shit anymore.
Exactly. Like, wow. Like, you know when you think it can't stoop any lower or get any worse, and then you're just like, really? So, yeah. So
That's
basically,
shocking.
when he thought he was going to meet Bobby Boucher, he's actually accepted a match against Bobby Lashley, and he puts him in the full Nelson, or the hurt lock, as he's called it, and yeah, he goes to sleep. And then Drew Gulak comes down. He's going to use the opportunity to win the 24/7 title, Anthony, because he's already laid out. And you know what? Lashley stops him and beats him up. But then you think, well, why would you do that? Are you going to win it? No. I'm going to beat him up, but then I'm going to put you on top of R-Truth anyway, and so you can win the title. And so Gulak wins the title, and then Lashley walks away. So again...
do you know what helps make your title look really good?
Yeah.
Have the big guy not even fucking interested.
You have every opportunity in the world, titleless, to win something. Well, it's not titleless, it's the United States champion, but we forget that.
He could have like literally pinned them both if he wanted to. It wouldn't have fucking mattered.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that is the biggest, disrespect ever, isn't it? To go, I could just win this off you now, but you know what? I'm going to beat the guy up who was going to pin you, and then I'm just going to let him pin you anyway because I'm going to throw him on top of you. Like, wow.
And it's funny because I still think the 24/7 title could be something if they put it on a monster like Lashley and it was difficult to get.
Yeah, absolutely, it could be.
Even the shenanigans would make a bit more sense, but like R-Truth isn't like the most difficult to beat in the ring. Or that's how they book him. So why do people even need to resort to shenanigans to try and pin him out of nowhere?
Yeah,
just
no
beat
idea.
him in a match.
They've just got it so wrong, haven't they? Like, just
they really have.
wrong.
Fuck up.
Speaking of fuck ups, so what a clusterfuck around this whole thing about who's going to captain Team Raw? Like, when has the captaincy of a Survivor Series team ever meant anything ever? But anyway, as is tradition.
Wasn't it just like a glorified tag match?
Yeah, pretty much, right? So, as is tradition, we're just going to go around. Everyone wants to be captain for some reason. And so Braun comes out and he's like, do you know what? The team needs these hands, because of course they do. And then Adam Pearce is like, well, everyone's got to qualify. And he's like, well, the thing is, though,
That's
I
a
can't.
cracking impression.
It's like, well, I can't. But the problem is, because you're so big and you got these hands, you can't find anyone, to put you in and qualify with. And so AJ's like, well, I don't know. Why don't we do a triple threat between all the guys in the ring except me? And so Adam Pearce is like, that's a great idea. And then the worst line of the whole year probably is Braun is like, well, they don't pay me to talk, and throws it's like, well, yeah, they do though. Like, that is.
No, to be fair, that's one thing I'm pretty sure they didn't pay him for, because they are
But no,
getting
they
ripped
do.
off.
He's just really bad at it, so they shouldn't pay him for it. Like, they definitely pay him to talk. He just can't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a fair point. If it's like they don't pay me by the word or something, it might be a bit more sensible.
Well, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Does AJ's bodyguard not wrestle?
I've
never seen him wrestle.
To be fair, I thought for a while that he was just Stormzy. Which
Does Stormzy not wrestle?
I thought
the reason I ask is because, like, storyline, it would have made more sense for AJ to weasel out of having to be in the match by putting his bodyguard in the match. That would have made sense to me. But it was like everyone but me, and it just makes it look like he's got a bit of favour curried with Adam Pearce for not having to be involved. But why not throw the bodyguard in there? People want to see that anyway. Two big guys go up against each other.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I think he might be a bit more Nathan Jones.
Well, you can do one spin kick and then disappear.
Maybe. But yeah, so anyway, the match happens. Braun Strowman goes over, as expected, because every other fucker in the match had already qualified. And then they have this weird little, like, love-in, and they're like, oh, come on, guys. We're all going to be a team, so we need to handshake. And it's like, I'm not going to... And then Shane's like, I'm not going to handshake. I'm going to hug you, fella. And they hug. And it's like, ah... And then all of a sudden, they all just start beating each other up. And then AJ's left in the ring going, why can't we all just get along? And it's like, okay, fuck me.
So just abandon who everyone is character-wise just for Survivor Series then?
Pretty much.
Weird.
So that happened. Then, Anthony, we got the Firefly Funhouse.
Yes, we did. That was fucking weird.
He was very weird.
Weird.
So I've been quite over on Firefly Funhouse since it has come to Raw, because, let's be honest, I don't fully watch SmackDown for all the hours because
Naturally, you
we
skim.
haven't got enough time. So I skim the ones I'm not designated to talk about. And I've always sort of enjoyed Firefly Funhouse, especially earlier on. But it's always been decent. This one, however, was weird. Now, it was still good. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was pretty decent all the way up until the end. So, the things that I enjoyed. So there was, like, the swear jar for Abby and like the fuck and all that kind of stuff, and they can't say it. Blah blah blah. The Orton flashbacks to when obviously it was the whole Bray Wyatt Orton thing was good as well. But then it was like, I don't know. Alexa has been so good in this role, and just this one segment just fucked it. It was just like, I've been practicing a new trick. Insert like fucking. I'm trying the fucking fruit winder or something it's called. It fucking just like flops out of her mouth and like falls onto the floor.
I'm fairly certain we're meant to believe it was a tongue.
Exactly, and it's like, all right, and then Bray's like, oh shit, and it like gets bleeped out, and it's like, okay, all right then.
And for someone who's got a catchphrase that's yowie wowie, that why did you say oh shit?
Exactly, oh shit.
Even that missed the beat.
Yeah.
But no, that was really weird and out of place.
I don't even know whose mind that came out of, but it was bad. It was so bad.
But at least we're not focusing on Wobbly Walrus. That's the main thing.
Well, for now.
No, he's dead.
I mean, they've made the puppet Anthony. He's coming back.
No, he's dead.
He's coming back.
No, he's dead.
He's behind you. No. So Nia, so nice. We won it twice. We get Nia Jax versus Lana in a additional match of the evening. And all in all, my sentiment is just fuck off, really, because fuck off. And then, while you're there, you can think about fucking off, because I don't get it. I just don't get it, Anthony. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I don't get it.
Right?
I don't get it.
Meanwhile, while the match is going on, or slightly before the match, I forget, you have like people talking about, well, what's going to happen in the match between Nia and Lana? Like,
We know.
it's only been booked a fucking minute ago, but okay, you got time to interview people. And who have you got? The brand new spanking tag team of fucking Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. It's like, why are
And
these
we
guys a
mentioned
team?
this before, but
I'm
why
like, we
the
spoke about it, but why? Like, you've had the Iconics. Why are you doing this? Why have you got Lacey, who's going to be a bona fide main eventer? I'm telling you now, right? Listen, Ed, if you are listening to this, Adam Pearce, Vince, Shane, Triple H, fucking Tim from catering, I don't care, right? If you're listening, the money match is Charlotte and Lacey Evans at WrestleMania. That's your money match.
build
Make
it.
it happen, right?
If you build it.
If you build it. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I can't. Oh, you should have pre-warned me, really. If you build it, we will enjoy it. Yes. God. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, make that match happen, please. You'll make us all real happy. So anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. But yeah, she goes through a table for a seventh, Anthony. It was seven, as Monica would say, 7
Nice.
times through the table. And I just don't care anymore, to be honest. Like, I mean, I didn't care to begin with, and like after 7, yeah, I couldn't care any less at this point.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's nice that Lana holds a record.
Well, yeah, true. We also got Anthony New Day versus the Hair Business, and the question I've got is, well, what was the point, really? Because
So the new Day could be childish.
yeah, and we saw this on SmackDown as well, but like in reverse. But the whole point of it was what? Because it was really easily like telegraphed what was going to happen, because by this point MVP and Lashley are both wearing suits, because MVP was never going to wrestle. Lashley had already wrestled, so it was like, well, we're going to have a tag team match against 2 of you, and it's like, well, what about the guys who are still in fucking gear? You
Any
dickheads?
2 will do.
Any 2. It's like, oh, these guys who are dressed and ready to go, awesome, right? How lucky. But yeah, so that was shit. And for Tucker, right? So I called this. I definitely called this once we found out that they were split up. But oh my god, I didn't think it would be literally the week later. Why
couldn't he just let him disappear?
Right? So
it would have been kinder to let him disappear from TV.
Effectively, now he is enhancement talent. He didn't get an entrance. Didn't really get any kind of mention or build up whatsoever. His ring gear.
He changed his name.
Well, I'm guessing he's called Tucker Knight now, because he's got Knight printed on his ass. So it's like, well, why would that be there unless his name's Tucker Knight?
Well, he had the day on the front, you
know. Oh. Maybe he's called Day Knight. Day short for David.
David Knight. That works.
David
I like
Knight. Day and his middle name Vid Knight. But yeah, like he was wearing these like, I don't know if you remember these. There was a phase, especially in the UK, where all the women wore these like fashion pants, and they were black pants with like red and white stripes up the side, right? And that was like the fashion pant. And basically Tucker,
I don't remember that.
Tucker's got them on now as well, so he's finally come round to the fashion. And interestingly, he's pretty much got the same ring gear on as Rey Mysterio had on at fucking SmackDown for some reason. So work that out. But
sail on.
Yeah, I just thought, oh my god. And then, wouldn't you know it, Ricochet fucking squashes the shit out of him. It literally lasted less than 30 seconds. He battered him, pinned him, done. So I'm pretty sure Tucker...
Ricochet was the Lesnar.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure Tucker's fucking off back to development because, yeah, wow. What a burial. Like, I knew it didn't bode well for him when he left he called?
Heavy machinery.
Yeah. What's the guy called?
Otis.
Otis. Yeah. I knew it didn't bowl well for him when he left Otis. But yeah, I was not expecting a squash from Ricochet and a pretty much a fucking pile driver into developmental. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm calling it now, though. I think it's going to be a much less immediate, but a definite squash for Otis as well going forward. He's going to disappear. He's got the slight more amusement than Tucker, but he's going to disappear as well. Vince is not interested with those toys anymore. He's got new toys.
I mean, he changes his mind quite a bit, and based on what happened to Otis with the Money in the Bank and subsequently the SmackDown match he had this week, I think you could be right. And then the final main event of the evening, Anthony, was the 2-on-1. And let's be honest, Drew was never going to lose this match, so it was pretty underwhelming. And then after the match, we had an RKO. And then, yeah, Bray does like this weird laugh. And it's like, okay.
Weirder than usual, or that weird laugh he does?
Just that weird one he does. And then that was Raw. And so, all in all, Anthony, I think looking at it, I've managed to find or scrape 2 highlights out of what was a pretty terrible fucking show. And I'm surprised
3 hours, guys.
because
3
I've been
hours.
rating this show much higher since the draft than I had been previously. But this show was like a fucking return to form, I tell you. It was painful. And so for me, it doesn't even get 1. It gets 0.5.
I'm going to be rigid on the 0.5 purely because, right, again, and not to make this all like a whole agenda out of this, but like people moan about AEW and the way they treat women, right? When you look at how stacked the women's roster is for WWE, this is not respecting women, like because they choose to just totally fuck this shit up, right? Where's Naomi? Where's Nikki Cross? You know, where are these other people who were drafted who could get a bit of airtime? Like, why did we have to see Nia Jax twice? No offense, Nia, but like, why was that a thing? Like,
I'm still baffled by the fact that we haven't seen Naomi because she is a standout in that division, and she'd been treading water for ages in SmackDown.
Her business.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty fucking sick. But yeah, we haven't seen her.
Yeah, we've yet to see her at all. But we can have like loads of Lana and Nia Jax. Fucking point. At least say they're doing something with Alexa, but she's not exactly wrestling these days.
No.
It's an absolute fucking travesty. And you ruined SmackDown's women's division, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that now.
You ruined it
all.
all.
We can't have nice things. So yeah, I'm going with 0.5 as well, I reckon.
Okay. Well, tell us about NXT, Anthony.
Will do. So, as far as the card goes, Carl, we opened the nights with Ember Moon going up against Dakota Kai, with Dakota Kai taking the win. We saw Cameron Grimes go up against Kushida, with Kushida taking the win. We saw Drake Maverick and Killian Dane going up against Everrise, which ended in a no contest. We then go right over, understandably given the situation, which I'll explain, to a Pat McAfee and his new cronies promo. We then have a match between Shotzi Blackheart and Toni Storm, with Toni Storm taking the win. We then get a promo from Jake Atlas, a segment from Tim Thatcher, a promo from Xia Li, all one after the other for some fucking reason. And then we end the night with Tommaso Ciampa going up against Velveteen Dream in a match that nobody wanted to see. Maybe they were. I didn't want to see it, basically, is what I'm saying. We saw Tommaso take the win. Mm-hmm. So, as far as highlights go, Carl, I'll get it out of the way now. Pat McAfee, or McAfee, I don't know if I've said it. I always wonder. I'm going to go with McAfee, it just feels better. Pat McAfee and his new stable he's forming. You know what? I dare say, Pat, and you might disagree, Carl, you have a much more extensive knowledge on people who weren't wrestlers who became wrestlers, right? But as far as I can see, he's one of the best ones I've seen where they've come in and they've had talent in every aspect. You might say he's a bit over-energetic or a bit over... He probably will calm down on the promo front, but he can cut a promo, and we've seen him in the ring, albeit very limited, but we've seen him in the ring, so we know he's got the chops to do this, and I honestly think he can be somewhere in this business, which you don't often see with people who've transitioned into wrestling. Like, normally they're quite lacking, and a lot of the time they don't make it, but I don't know. I did enjoy the promo. Again, probably could be a bit cleaner, a bit tidier, a bit less rambly. But who am I to talk about people rambling? And they actually genuinely sort of sold me on why Pete Dunne is against O'Reilly and why the Only Lorcan and Danny Burch are against Undisputed Era. They all had their sort of motives, and it just built everything up in the right way. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's a good way of actually getting Undisputed Era a bit of relevance when it comes to a feud, because they were kind of floundering as well. So all in all, the Pat McCaff stuff, yeah, on board for that.
Yeah.
Good
I mean,
highlight, big highlight.
I think I've been quite impressed with him. I think, to your point of people who've transitioned over into the sport, he's definitely up there. You know, the match he had was fantastic with Adam Cole, and you know the stuff he's done on the mic, and in terms of his presence has been up there as well. So yeah, fair play to the guy. Like I mean, I'll be honest. I think I've said before, I don't really know who the fuck he is. But you know, he seems to be popular and big over there. And
that's the thing. Well, he's a big American star, isn't he? I want to say it's American football, which is probably why we don't know him all that well. But yeah, no, he's doing a tremendous job. And like, I'm curious how you feel about it, because one of the matches was Killian Dane versus with Drake Maverick going up against Everrise. And when I saw the card, I was a bit like, this again, because we've seen it a few times, right? But then like the whole way they did their promo was just sort of interrupting that. They don't give a fuck about that match kind of thing, and the injured Killian Dane ultimately, and it looks like they might be building maybe a mini feud before Undisputed Era make their return, with Killian Dane and Drake Maverick having issues with them. But even that, I thought it was executed really well. I didn't feel like they did the right match, because I didn't feel like I lost anything, because it's a match we've already seen as well.
yeah, I mean, I think it probably makes sense, because I don't really know what the deal is with Adam Cole, whether it's like a real injury or not. But I feel like it would make sense to put them with lesser known competition to establish themselves ahead of that big rivalry. So.
This is where you can do a squash right, isn't it? Because you show a bit of dominance, and then it gets your team across. Not just random squashes because you don't know what you want to do with them just yet. You know, you just, which is another one we'll talk about in my own shite. But yeah, all in all, I think they've done a stellar job there. So much credit to them. Now, this is more hopeful thinking on my part, my next highlight, Carl, and my only highlight after that, actually. But Shotzi Blackheart, she had her tank stolen, and her tank ran over. Why is that a highlight? Because I think they might be dropping the whole tank thing. And I think this is a good sign, because I like Shotzi Blackheart. She's really good in the ring. She's definitely got something. And she's proved that in the last few months. But I often, every week, I think, Carl, I mention the Howland's a bit daft and cringy, and so is the tiny tank. And now we don't have the tiny tank. And I'm hopeful that they're going to push it into more of a less gimmicky and more legitimate good wrestler. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So hopeful thinking, but a highlight.
Yeah, I think it would do a good to get rid of the things that, you know, I've been quite critical of it, like about her. She doesn't need the tank. She doesn't need a howl. She doesn't need anything else. You know, she has got something which is unique. It's a different look, and if she put herself into it and just showcased her talent, I think she'd get over a lot more than whatever else she's been doing.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like you've cited a few times with AEW that Cody's matches are overproduced. I think this is the first time I've seen a wrestler be overproduced. Like everything about it's like just calm everything down a little bit.
Yeah,
and then
agreed. I think it's like
you can just enjoy you as a wrestler.
I think for me, none of it really makes sense. It's like, why are you driving a tank? Why are you wearing a helmet? Why are you howling? Like, none of it makes sense. And I think, you know, I'm prepared to, you know, suspend disbelief in wrestling. You know, we've seen that with many characters over the years, many a situation, but there's nothing which has made me go with Shotzi. Oh yeah, of course she's someone who wears a helmet, drives a tank and howls. Like there's nothing there to.
I've tried to make connections. I'm like, is the tank anything to do with the sort of D-Generation X war with WCW back in the day? But there's no real reference to it properly. You know, is the helmet with the horns on, is that kind of an army thing? I don't know. Does she howl? Like I really don't know what the howling's about. But yeah, like you say, it's all just like, let's throw a few different things in there and build a memorable character by having everything. Which is why you made that create wrestler shout at the Royal Rumble, and it was fair. Because that was how I used to create wrestlers back in the day.
No, I mean, in fairness, that is still valid, and it's not like a slight on Shotzi, but like the first time I saw it, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I think the point you raise now is like it's just so overproduced, and like even then, she wasn't come down in a tank. So
No.
it's like if anything, I saw it and was like, "Well, who the fuck is this?" And then they push it up another level, and it's like, "Well, sack all that off. You know, you're clearly talented. We've seen the stuff you've done.
But this is the thing: the
We've
more
seen
we
how
watch her, the
crazy
more
you can
talented
be
we
and
realize
high
she is.
risk." Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
just like
it was
just let
almost
her
like a
do the job.
distraction for you and me, especially. It was almost like a distraction we had to get past before we realized she was really good.
Yeah.
So it has a negative effect sometimes as well.
Mm.
So that was my last highlight, Carl. As much as it was just moaning for a little bit, I think they're heading in the right direction story wise.
Yeah.
As far as the Oshites go, right, we had Cameron Grimes going up against Kushida, and I was disappointed in this because they didn't have Kushida go over him as clean as I would have liked. They're trying to book Kushida at the minute, as you know, as coming back with a proper bit of seriousness and a bit of force to him and dominating where he can. And Grimes was the perfect person to go over on. Didn't have to be a full-on squash, but he could have just won decisively. But instead, we had Cameron Grimes still freaked out by zombies for some reason. Like, despite it was a gimmick last week, let it go, man. So we had the shenanigans with the referee, which led to Kushida taking the win, but based on a distraction, so it wasn't really a loss for Cameron. I didn't like that. I would have preferred a much cleaner, more decisive win for someone who they're trying to book so strong at the minute. Anyway, seemed a bit odd.
No, agreed.
Again, not to be too critical because it was still a good match, but we saw Shotzi Blackheart going up against Toni Storm with a couple of noticeable botches. Now, I don't believe this was story-wise, but they tried to make it seem that way. It's like, oh, she's so emotional and distracted over a tank. That's why it happened. But you can't story-wise botch the way they did. Like Shotzi tried to leap over the top rope and tripped on it. And you can't. That's a bit of a dangerous thing to book. So I truly believe that was a botch. The next one was she's done it again. Shotzi. I think this was more the fault of Toni Storm. This one, but she did a head scissors to the corner turnbuckle, and she'd done the head scissors and landed before Toni even moved. And I'm like, okay, yeah, your response to that head scissors was a bit fucked as well. So just a couple of noticeable botches, and Toni Storm's been out of the game for a little bit, so there'll be a little bit of ring rust there, and sometimes accidents happen. So Shotzi's tripping. It's just one of them, isn't it? But again, for a match that was expecting to be really good and was really good, there's probably just a couple of obvious botches that maybe detracted from it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. It's not nice to see, is it? I think if you're watching something and you see like quite a significant botch, you kind of like, oh, and like it takes away from the match. Then, like we've seen it a few times, and it's not just WWE. Like a prime example is Matt Sydal in AEW. It was like his big. He's the Joker, and he's come out and he just fucks up his first thing he does. It just takes the full steam out of the match. So. Yeah, I think for the fact that there was a couple of things that didn't land in this wasn't ideal, especially for like Toni, who's coming back into the scene after so long out, and then for Shotzi, who's trying to establish herself. It was a shame, really, that it had
Especially,
to happen.
I think maybe because I was worried I was being a bit unfair because this had the potential to be a really good match as well. And it wasn't a bad match, but just those things caught my eye. And you know me, Carl, I'm not one for spotting botches all that well. Do you know what I mean? If you know what I mean, like you probably spot them more than I do when we're watching. You do, in all fairness. But no, I think you're more attuned to the in the ring style. I think probably because of the wrestling experience you've had, that you'll usually spot a botch before I will. So for me, I was like, if I'm spotting them, they're fairly obvious. So I did it.
Yeah.
So, again, another O'Shea. This is purely a personal preference, I think, Carl. So I'm interested to know how you feel about it because we had like a bit of a backstage thing where Jake Atlas attacks Santos Escobar's cronies, whose names escape me, so I'm just going to call them the cronies, with a steel pipe. And obviously, he didn't do anything to Escobar. Escobar saw what happened, but they're building towards this rematch. And the point I want to make with it is, does anybody rematch? I didn't.
No.
I could not be asked. Like they're actually building story around it, which is good, and they might build it up to a point I'm interested. But right now, the match was over fairly quick anyway. When we saw it previously, there was some shenanigans, but it didn't really need a rematch. I'm not asked whether Jake Atlas and Santos Escobar go up against each other again. So I was a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
How
same.
do you feel? Yeah.
Same. I
There you
mean,
go.
I don't think I could say it any better myself. Just kind of one of those things. It was like, all right, okay, no one asked for this, but yeah, go for it.
Other stuff that no one really wants. We had another segment of Thatcher's Thatchcan, which is a stupid name, and I just don't think they know what they're doing with Tim Thatcher anymore. Like he
Not
bullied
sure they ever
someone.
really knew what they were doing with him, ever, to be honest. Post Riddle.
Well, this
Yeah.
is the thing. Like they had something with the Riddle thing, and that seemed to be the only viable feud for him. And apologies because I never wrote the guy's name down, but it looks like he's going to go into a match with this the one who sort of attacked him in Thatcher's Thatchcan. But and I think we've seen them up against each other before, but his name does escape me. But again, I'm like, I just don't think there's any direction for Tim Thatcher at the minute. So I'm a bit worried for his future in WWE. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I feel like he lacks a lot of the core characteristics of being a main event WWE superstar. He just doesn't have them. Like, sure, he's got a solid fundamentals and shootish kind of style, but other than that, he's dry. He's got no character, and outside some sort of crazy deathmatch type scenario, there's not much there. So
you see, I think this is the problem, and I think this is what they're experimenting with now. I think this is their attempt at some sort of character work for him, where he's doing these things, where he's showing you how to do locks and how to get out of locks and stuff. But it's not landing. I'm really
no,
could be a personal preference, but I don't know. I'm not sold on him.
no, same.
And my last one, Gal, and I'm curious how you feel about this because you love a good mystery. Is all this stuff with Xia Li, where that is it Bauer or whatever, give her a letter the other week and we were like, what was the letter about? And then they were speaking to her this week and she's basically not giving away what the letter's about, but then she got another letter and it's like, okay, so are we going to get anything to help progress this, or are we just going to see you get your mail every week now? I'm not
bills again, damn it.
But this is they're obviously building to something, but at this point the build feels way too slow because this didn't really build anything.
Yeah,
it's still just the mystery letter, and it's like, okay, maybe some sort of hint at what it might be. But how do you feel? Because you're always a sucker for a good mystery. Are you curious what the secret letters are about, or why she wants to have a rematch with who's the one who's not Mercedes Martinez?
Raquel Gonzalez
Wants to have a rematch with Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah. I'm not that intrigued now, to be honest. I don't think they've handled it in a way that I'm like, ooh. It's just oh, I mean, similar to what you said. It's like, oh, she's getting mail. It's like, well, what does it mean? Who's it going to be?
Which would be a 1 week. It's like, you may already be a winner. It's like, oh.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably going to be Mercedes Martinez, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who do you think?
Well, I honestly don't know, to be honest. Has she got a history of Mercedes Martinez? Because I don't.
No,
really,
but I'm just thinking.
I've not seen.
She's the only one who's got nothing planned because she was in Retribution and then wasn't.
I'll take your
and
point.
left.
So
and it's
it
like,
could
well,
be her, yeah.
If anyone's going to come out of left field, I'm like, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call it. I'm just going to throw a wild one out there. Let's have a think. Who's missing at the minute? Not missing, right? But I'm going to throw a wild one out there that it's going to surprise us all. And Io Shirai has been hassling her via post, because that's how people communicate these days, the post.
Yeah, just got a telegram.
And then we're going to be all surprised because it's going to propel Xia Li into a title match.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let us refer back to this in the not so distant future and see.
When I'm wrong. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Good
pretty
idea.
wrong as well, but
right. So for me, rating wise, okay, I never had a lot of highlights, and I had probably had more O'Shites, but at the same time, it was a good week. It was a good card. couple of matches I weren't overly enamored with. I feel the construct, should I say properly, of the night was a bit odd to have promo. It felt a little bit promo heavy, but nevertheless, it wasn't bad. But I'm going to land it firmly in the middle because of the amount of negatives I'm able to pull from it. So I'm going to give it a 2.5 this week rather than a 3.
Okay. For me, it is a 2. I don't know whether because I'm just not as invested in it on a weekly basis because it's not like my show to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not that like. I thought the Pat McAfee stuff was good. I thought, to be honest, I thought the main event was all right as well. Like, I know we didn't really speak about it loads, but I thought
to be honest, like,
right.
I think the thing, because I haven't mentioned it in my highlights or my shite, and the reason for that is because it was neither.
Yeah.
I haven't come out of it like, that was a really good. I need to mention that in my highlights, and I wasn't offended by it.
No.
So yeah, it wasn't bad, but it just never hit any radars for me, I suppose.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I can't give it middle of the road because I think you'll find out based on my next score. No spoilers, obviously, but yeah, we'll see why.
That's fair. So speaking of your next spoilers, shall we talk Dynamite, Carl?
Let's talk Dynamite. Absolutely no spoilers ahead of this.
None.
This show. But no, I'm not gonna like spend too much time talking about it because obviously it was ahead of the pay-per-view. This was like the go-home show for the pay-per-view, and so yeah, I won't dwell on it too much. But the card itself is we got MJF and Wardlow versus Sammy Guevara and Ortiz kicking off the show, which is a nice surprise. And MJF and Wardlow went over. We had Miro taking on Trent in the feud against the Arcade, with Miro taking the win in that one. We had the Private Party taking on the Young Bucks, with the Young Bucks picking up the win. We had Nyla Rose taking on Red Velvet, with Nyla Rose picking up the win. And the main event was the Dark Order, consisting of Colt Cabana, John Silver, and Ten, taking on Cody and the Gun Club, who are now part of the Nightmare family, with those guys picking up the win.
Not to go off on a tangent already, did you know that both of Billy Gunn's kids are in AEW now?
Who's his other kid?
Exactly. Now, if you go onto the Gun Club's Instagram, it consists of 3 of them. I can't remember his other son's name, but there's 3 of them in the Gun Club now, both of his kids.
Well, damn. No, I did not.
Small world. So it's not just Austin. Oh, I think in this instance it was Austin as part of the Gun Club. But yeah, his other son's part of it now too. Well,
you know what? We're not just a news channel. We are a breaking news channel because I did not know this at all. So,
and why they're not called the Young Guns, I don't know. It just makes sense.
That does make sense, actually. The Young Bucks versus the Young Gun. I like it. But yeah, so that was the rundown of the card. In terms of highlights, so it was still a pretty highlight-heavy show, but there were a few things that, did kind of need talking about from a negative standpoint. But if you go with the highlights, so epic start to the show, as has become the norm for AEW. So obviously it was Sammy Guevara and Ortiz taking on Wardlow and MJF. And you know what? Guevara looked amazing in this match. And I don't know why. I don't know whether it's the whole feud he's had with Matt Hardy or whatever, and the fact we haven't really seen him in proper matches in a while, but he just reminded me of like how fucking good he is. He's such a talent.
No, I think he's had a bad few months. In all fairness, like for like all the controversy around the Matt stuff, being suspended for a while and so on.
Yeah.
So in terms of in-ring work, he's not been able to showcase anywhere near as well.
No, and I think to be honest, he's not really had the opportunity because he's been working this program with Matt. Outside that, he's not really wrestled, has he? And I think the stuff he did with Matt was more hardcore kind of violent style. So it's nice to see him back in the ring doing a proper wrestling match. And
to be honest, it reminded me of when I first started watching AEW, and there was this young lad, and it's like, fuck, he's really good. Who is he?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It echoed that because he was always really good in the ring. To be fair,
I've got a video of myself and my son watching the first episode of Dynamite, and it's Cody versus Sammy Guevara. And we're there watching it, and even my I think it must have been like 1 and a bit at the time, maybe nearly 2. And he's there just going, "Oh no!" And then like, he's watching it and he's just thinking like even then he knows Sammy Guevara is the shit. So yeah, I think I got kind of memories of that. Again, just seeing him back in the ring, back doing what he does best.
When we can eventually get them, your son can have a Sammy Guevara action figure.
Well, exactly. Whenever they are available. And Sammy, you are also a friend of the show. You've given us a shout out already. And, we didn't get one from the likes of Jungle Boy or from the likes of Marco Stunt, as you already said. We chose you. We wanted
Because
you
you
to
are
be
a
the one who
god.
shouted us out. So, yeah, exactly. Hope you've cleaned up your place by now. Thanks again for letting us know and giving us the insight on that. But yeah,
You know what?
so
We're quite AEW friendly in general. So, if you want to come on the show, that's cool.
I mean, that is true. That is true. We have had Thunder Rosa, who is AEW friendly.
We've had your pal, Griff Garrison.
Griff Garrison, who is firmly
He's on your
AEW friendly.
vlogs.
Exactly. Come on, Sammy. Come on. So in terms of the first match, I thought it was fantastic. Excellent opening. Great showing from Sammy Guevara, who we haven't seen in, a while, be able to showcase his talent in a proper way. So really, really good. We then got to see in the audience, there was, Matt Hardy dressed as Serpentico, who hit Sammy with a chair. And that obviously took Sammy out the match. And then, MJF managed to get the armbar for the win on Ortiz. So, again, not taken away from MJF. I thought he was fantastic as always. The stuff ahead of the match as well. So, ahead of everything starting, there was like this little weird thing where Jericho was backstage talking to the interviewer around he's going to be on commentary tonight and so on and so forth, and MJF comes out and them two have like a little bit of a spat, and it was a nice subtle way to kind of progress their feud. But yeah, MJF obviously is fantastic in the ring, and he didn't really have a load of time to show those traits, but I thought he did a fantastic job and just an awesome opening to the show, which is I think is what we've come to expect from Dynamite over the past
yeah, they do know how to open a show, in all fairness.
Definitely. So the next one, so the Miro match was fine. It wasn't anything to necessarily write home about, I would say. I think the outcome was always going to be, Miro is going to win because there's no reason for him to lose. But I think this is the first time Miro has looked really, really good in AEW. Like, he's looked, all right. Obviously, he's come across, we know his reputation as Rusev. We know the work he's been able to do with the likes of Cena at Mania and, some of the bigger feuds he's had, and he's definitely got the potential there. This is the first time he's looked really, really good. I think he looked strong, agile, athletic, and it's everything we come to know and love from, Miro as a character.
It's reassuring in a way. It's a good sign. And like you say, it wasn't anything to write home about, but what was starting to bug me a little bit with Miro was everything seemed to be echoed around the fact of like, oh yeah, he was released from WWE and controversy, and it's like, and we know he can go in the ring, but I want him to start building up as a wrestler in AEW. I don't want to constantly be reminded of the fact he was WWE and there's this controversy and that controversy around it and all the Lana stuff and his Lana being punished. I don't want that to be the focus. I want to focus on the fact that he's really talented. And this wasn't, like you say, it wasn't a big memorable match, but I'm hoping it's a step in the right direction. Yeah,
same. And I think hopefully it is because, it's the first time since he's kind of come across the way you think, okay, this is Miro. This is someone that I can get behind, and he's going to go on to be something bigger in AEW, which we've always known, he had the capability to do. So, yeah. There was a bit during the commercial break where Dark Order comes out, and obviously Orange Cassidy was at ringside supporting Trent. And yeah, there's a bit of like scuffle and so on and so forth, but it kind of went towards a commercial break as well, so we didn't really get to see it. So I can't really take it away, but I think if it would have had to be kind of, if it would have been so in our face actually during the show, it might have ended up as an shite. But the fact it wasn't, and it was just kind of alluded to, I think was a good decision because it shows that stuff does happen during commercials, and it didn't take away from the show. It wasn't all about Dark Order and Orange Cassidy. It gave these guys an opportunity to put on something. So, yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I like it.
Then I think again, interview segments is something that they've been doing quite well. I think of late AEW, and we had different segments from Kenny Omega and from Hangman, and both of them I thought were quite good. So Kenny was coming like to this from like quite an arrogant approach of, well, he's the best wrestler, he's not really lost, and you know, he did that tag team thing for a while, but he's a singles wrestler and he's the best wrestler in the world, so blah 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 blah. And then obviously the flip side to that was Hangman, who was there quite visibly intoxicated. He'd had quite a few too many whiskeys, and yeah, he was almost fearful. So JR kind of called him out and was like, well, you know, you kind of saying all this, but is this what you believe? And he was like, well, do you know what? No, I'm I am worried, kind of thing. And it was nice to see. And I think I've been quite critical on the fact that this didn't have the build that I would have expected, because for me, on paper, Omega, Hangman, with the fact they were a tag team and they lost the belts and they kind of imploded, nothing really happened from that implosion.
Yeah.
And it was something that I wanted to see kind of foster itself into this, and it just never like really materialized. It was like, okay, well, it's imploded, and so Kenny's gone his own way, and Hangman's like still wants to be a tag team star, sort of, and Kenny's like, no, I'm a singles guy. But it just didn't do enough. I would have liked to see a bit more intensity and a bit more anguish between the two of them, but we just never got to see it, unfortunately. But I think video packages like this did help get me more hyped for it than I initially was. So yeah, all in all, I thought it was good, and it was good to see the like Omega was super confident and Hangman was a bit like, you know, fucking hell, I've not been towards the top in a while, and I'm going up against Kenny Omega, and I'm a bit nervous. So yeah, I don't know, I quite liked it, to be fair.
I'm with you on that.
And speaking of good promos, Taz, so he came out and he cut another good one, to be fair. And I don't know, he's been quite hit or miss for me in terms of his promo work. I think most of the time he's good, but sometimes he just comes out and starts rambling, and you're just like, what the fuck are you on about? But this one
I
was
think
more...
it's a classic example, though, and I mention it with a lot of WWE stuff, when they want them to do a promo, but it's just for promo's sake. And I think that's when Taz becomes a bit of a rambler. And I've mentioned it, it's not just Taz, like Damian Priest is one, I think, who suffers so much from the fact that they want him to cut promos when he's got nothing to say. And I think that doesn't help. Whereas when Taz is impassioned about something or they're heading towards something, then you can get a bit more out of it. And I think that's what really helped this, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I think that's like super fair. Their kind of storyline, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, has been a bit, I don't know, a bit hit and miss in terms of where they're going to go. And so Taz has come out quite a few times and been like, well, don't really know what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to make a case for them guys. Whereas this one was kind of like, well, do you know what? You know, AEW factors in records, and apparently you're quite big on this whole, you know, sports presentation and win-losses and all that kind of stuff matter. And do you know what? We've got Brian Cage, who's 10-1 in his last 11, and, you know, Ricky Starks, similar as well. So, you know, just so you know, there's going to be an FTW presence of Full Gear. It's like, oh, okay, so even though you're not booked in anything, you're going to be there, you're going to get involved in something. So it's like, well, what's that going to be? So, yeah.
You know what? I like the fact that they worked in, because a lot of people are critical with AEW for that, having the point system, but then not really following it or abiding to it. But if they're going to use it in that sense, like they've built to the fact that, like, you'd really, you know, that's part of his gripe now. 10-1 and a similar record for Ricky Starks, but that doesn't mean anything to you. So you're still playing favourites, so they're still looking at that corruption and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're using it as a work now, because it is really difficult to keep to numbers and have exciting matches, because the stats don't really favour the bookings half the time. But fuck it, we'll work with it. It works.
Yeah, definitely. We also got the Young Bucks taking on Private Party as, I guess, a bit of a tune-up match ahead of the tag title match. Like, let's be honest, these guys are never going to put on a bad match, are they? So obviously we knew it was going to be good, and it was. It was great. It delivered. Ahead of the match, Sammy got revenge for earlier in the night with Matt Hardy causing that distraction. So he took out Hardy with his Twist of Fate, using his own finishing move.
Nice little touch.
Which was a nice little touch, as you say. And yeah, Matt Jackson kind of sold the knee, the ankle the whole time. So basically...
How's that weren't selling?
Well, exactly. His whole leg pretty much is going to fall off. And, you know, he's there just going, yeah, I'm definitely not dying. But yeah, so Nick Jackson had to pretty much carry the whole match, and ultimately ended up picking up the win. After the match, FTR came out and they beat them down, so kind of cementing their heel status, which I thought was interesting because Young Bucks haven't exactly been faces, have they? They've been super kicking everyone, and yeah, it's intensity, blah blah blah, but it's not exactly a nice thing to do. So I don't know. It was interesting that FTR were like finally like, do you know what? We're the bad guys. And I don't know. I feel like it was a little bit too little, too late, because it could have been a fantastic opportunity to have FTR as the proper heels, Young Bucks as the proper faces, but it just felt, I don't know, felt a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
Wasn't great. But yeah, so that was good. They picked up the win. FTR beat them down after the match. And then they were about to get Matt Knee in a chair and take him out fully. And
Do
then
you know what,
Hangman
though?
come down and follow.
I must admit, I wasn't over on them doing that. I didn't think that was in keeping with FTR.
Well, no, same, because for me, FTR were like, we are going to prove we're the better tag team. And that was the whole build for this whole thing. So I don't know what happened. And I don't know whether it's because like the heel now, whatever, but something somewhere happened where that became less of a thing about just proving who was better, FTR or Young Bucks. And it was like, well, FTR are the heels now, so they're going to take them out. And like, to your point, you wouldn't do that. If you wanted to prove, do you know what?
That's
We
the
are
thing,
the better tag team.
Yeah, and that's the way they've been selling it. So why would you debilitate one of them even more so that they have an excuse for why you beat them?
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I can imagine is that the real life element has taken precedence and they've gone, well, we can't have him wrestle a hell of a match, so we're going to have to put a reason in there. I don't know, but it just seems a bit not in keeping with FTR.
Yeah,
I was a bit...
I don't know, because like it didn't happen because Hangman came out and stopped it. So even though he was suffering, like he didn't
I think
do it anyway. So it was
and
like,
I take your point. I think it was more to, like, I think they used it as a mechanism to draw attention to the knee. Like, he's already injured and they're going to do this so that you won't forget that they're injured.
Yeah.
Rather than caring about the fact that FTR wouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, I think it was such a shame, I think, to see it go this route, because the way it was built up and the way I wanted it to be built up was, we're going to find out who's the best tag team, and it wouldn't have had any of this shit. It wouldn't have had any of this like lame build in like the last few weeks. It just would have been, we are finally going to see who is the best tag team. That's all it needed. Just like all it, like, yeah. But,
no shit, just fists.
no shit, just fists. But yeah, we're going to come on to that slogan in a bit. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, the next segment. Holy fucking promo. So, Mox and Kingston, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen these guys go at it before. I've said for a while now that Mox, and I was honest, I said Mox, when he first came to AEW, was shit. He was a WWE, like, cast off, because he couldn't break away from that whole, like, cartoony thing that WWE put in him. But,
I mean,
like,
it kind of makes a bit of sense. He spent, like, what, nearly 10 years doing that?
well, yeah, exactly. But then I feel like of late, he's become something else, like a main event star in AEW, and I can't pinpoint when that transition happened, but it happened, and you know, his promo again was no different. He just, like, he captivates you, and you're just there going, oh, okay, oh, fucking hell, you're gonna do this to him, like, gee, like you're hanging on every word he says, and then you've got Kingston, who's like the other side of it, who again is a fantastic promo, and the pair of them are just there going in on each other, just saying like, well, do you know what? You know, you're a sellout, and I'm going to prove to you that, I might hate myself, whatever, but I've done what I've had to do to get your belt. And Moxie's like, well, do you know what? I thought I had a friend in this business, and you're not my friend anymore. So do you know what? I'm going to prove to you that you think I'm a sellout. I'm going to show you I'm not, and you're going to say I quit. And you know what a shame. Everything you've been working to the last 18 years is going to result in nothing. And it's like sometimes it's something so raw and like, oh fuck, like that you can get behind. It's just so much better than like any kind of fucking corny little reason for anyone to like have anything. So for me, the history of these two really came across in these promos, and it really got me invested.
No, I totally agree, and it's done wonders for Kingston. Like I didn't know Kingston. I didn't know Kingston at all. So
Kofi.
he's really had to sell himself. It was Kofi's brother, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me, I'm like this is done. It does really good work for Mox. It's another good feud for Mox. But this promo did wonders for Kingston. Like I'm actually invested in to the point that I would be happy if he won. And we don't know yet. We have to watch Full Gear. But I would be happy if he won.
Sorry, it's got something in my eye.
That's cool. It happens.
Anyway, so yeah, and then the final highlight of the night. So we got to see Pac, and do you know what?
Guess who's Pac?
Pac again. Pac is back. Pac a friend. What? Yeah. So great to see him. Obviously he's one of my favorite guys in AEW, and obviously I feel really bad for him because it's not his own, decision not to be there in the company. It's, by all accounts, but they can't get him back. So it's one of them. Like, yeah. I don't know.
I started to think he was the man that AEW forgot.
Terrible, fucking terrible. You should be ashamed. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good to see him be back and do a much needed promo and hear from him, and see kind of the fact that he's even more of a psycho. He was the bastard, but now he's a bit more of a psycho. The whole isolation thing really taking its toll on him. So yeah, I thought it was really good and nice. It's crazy, really, when you think about it. The amount of talent who AEW has that can't be on the shows, and yet it's still so good. So yeah,
that's the crazy thing when you look at. You get reminded sometimes of the limited roster they're working with, and you go, "Oh, they are doing really well." But I think I look forward to us doing a more in-depth look at what Pac could potentially do when he returns to AEW in our segment, Pac to the Future.
T-shirts, man. You're making so much work for me to have to come up with these things. Will you stop it? Stop being so witty. Stop coming up with all these catchphrases. Jesus.
They're just bad dad puns, man. It's what I do.
What was the slogan for that one?
What was what?
Dad pun for days. What was it? Dad puns for days. Something like that.
I might have said dad jokes, but it's the same thing.
Dad jokes for days. There you go. Yeah, that works. Okay, so they were the highlights. Unfortunately, I've actually got 3 separate O-shites, which is a rarity for an AEW show. But I'm going to breeze through them because we've spent enough time talking about a precursor to a pay-per-view. So, O-shites, Jericho and commentary was shit, right? Really bad.
Unusually so.
Surprised the fuck out of me how bad he was. And then studying it, he basically was reading it word for word, which
just throwing it in this week.
Well, yeah, which I think, do you know what? It's fine to have cues and stuff. We use it on this show, don't we? We've got a document, we'll populate it and we'll have a couple of little words or whatever, and we'll Anthony says, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So definitely not line for line or anything. Anthony drinks
no. I mean, to be honest, we would really struggle doing line for line. We need jumping off points, don't we? But we would really struggle reading from it. I would stumble more reading from a script, and I stumble as it is. So
that's it. I mean, I'm old now, guys. I really am, and my memory isn't a thing anymore. Really, it's not. I'm not even going to say it's worse than what it once was. It's just not even a thing anymore. I just don't remember things. I just don't. I'm old. So I like to kind of.
He tells the truth, man. He's not even wearing pants right now. He forgot.
Who are you? Yeah. I like to kind of comment a little bit more around what happened in order to remember it. But yeah, for Jericho, for some reason, he was fucking studying that monitor, and it just felt so fake and disjointed, and he was literally reading it line for line and didn't know what he was going to say, and he was just Shivani, I would, but yeah, and you could see the camera zoomed in on him several times. He was there just trying to read the monitor.
You wonder what's gone on there because we know for a fact that he's awesome on commentary.
It was very weird. Very, very
it wasn't,
weird.
Like you say, it wasn't organic. No. And it wasn't Jericho.
No.
He's having a crazy few weeks.
Yeah, definitely strange to have him as a low life of commentary. But yeah, it was not good. Then we got Nyla Rose versus Velvet or Red Velvet. And yeah, it wasn't really a squash. but at the same time, it was easy.
Mm.
The problem I've got, and I know we spoke about this in the news a little bit, but they still haven't explained why Nyla Rose is the number one contender. Like, I get that, you know, she's a monster and whatever, but we haven't really seen her wrestle in ages. And I know it was a close contest with her and Shida in the first place, but I just don't really get it.
I think this is some of the trouble for me with this. Like, she's not been around, understandably, but then she comes back and we're meant to forget that, are we? Like, they could have even worked it in. Like, anyone else, we could have worked that in. Like, if Taz was their manager, we could have worked that in and said, okay, she's not had to be here for a while, but she's still not done with Shida, etc. So they could have done some sort of promo to cover this, but there's not really a lot of reason. Like, why is she number one contender? Just because there's no other women there? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. She's, for me, she's not been on screen in ages. You kind of need to do some work with that. And I get why she's not been on screen. I'm not being unfair, but, you know, something. But again, it's been mentioned in the news that maybe they didn't concentrate enough on the women's division.
Well, maybe. But yeah, I mean, you know, I suppose it speaks volumes, the fact that there was no build for this, because I feel like they were just like, well, who's going to face Shia? And I was like, I don't know, Nyla again. So
I was quite
yeah.
surprised to see Nyla back, because isn't she, like, in some sort of vulnerable category, like COVID-wise, and that's why she hasn't been around?
No idea. Honestly, don't know.
Oh.
I kind of lose
Well,
track.
okay then. I thought you told me.
No. Maybe.
Didn't happen. I don't know.
I mean, I am Eddie Guerrero's cousin. So I lie. I cheat, I steal.
Oh. I was like,
And the lie was
Chavo?
that I'm Eddie Guerrero's cousin.
Chavo? Is that you?
Oh, damn it. You're on to me. I've got the goatee and everything. And then lastly, the O'Shite was the main event, because, like, the go-home show to the pay-per-view and your main event is fucking the Dark Order taking on Cody and the Gun Club. Like, it did fuck all for anybody. And to have that as your main event, like, I'm quite impassioned about this, really, because you know what? It's very rare I go off on AEW. What a fucking stupid decision that was. Why would you go on the go-home show to your pay-per-view and have Cody Rhodes and the Gun Club taking on the Dark Order? It made zero sense. And then I guess it was all for the build-up towards the post-match promo, which was solid because it's Cody Rhodes and he does a solid promo. Don't get me wrong. But Darby Allin was just sat there in the audience just like, thinking about skating later. And it was just like, well, okay. So it just, was that the main event, really? Like, it was awful. Like, a terrible main event.
I mean, to be honest, on paper, it sounded really good. Like, Cody comes out with 2 guns. You're like, wow, what's going to happen here? It's crazy. But not what I thought.
No, shame. But yeah, so for that reason and that reason alone, I think for a go-home show, for a pay-per-view, there was some good bits, don't get me wrong, like as there always is in Dynamite, but this is one of the weakest shows for a while, especially for like a go-home. So for me, I can't give it more than 2.5. Hopefully that like helps you understand why I couldn't give NXT a 2.5, because don't get me wrong, Dynamite is still far superior to NXT. But yeah, I don't know, 2.5 for me, because there was a lot of things wrong with this ahead of a major pay-per-view as well. Yeah, it just didn't feel like a Dynamite show.
I do agree with a lot of your sentiments, Cal. In a very slight dispute to your point, I actually don't think it was miles better than NXT. Not this week. To the point that for me, I would give it a 2.5 as well. But bearing in mind that I gave the same to NXT, I think they were fairly level playing fields when it comes to some stuff worked and some stuff didn't.
No, I think it's fair. Yeah, I mean, I'm still not going to change my score because
No, I get that. NXT. I'm just saying, like, for me, like, normally I would 100% agree with you. Normally that it's miles better than NXT, but this is actually 2 weeks now in a row where I've put them on par. NXT's never been better since we started doing this podcast. It's never been better than Dynamite, but this is the first couple of weeks for me where it's been the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think Halloween Havoc was fantastic for NXT.
Yes,
and was, by all accounts, outperformed AEW in the ratings and everything. So fair play to them. I think for me, this, I don't know, it just NXT this week didn't do enough to make it on par for me. But yeah, at the same time,
I actually didn't mention it when I was covering NXT, but I am starting to like Johnny Gargano as well, which is probably helping because some of the things that really bug me about NXT are starting to disappear. So that's good.
Yeah. No, Gargano's a beast. I just think his weird little character dynamic he's got going at the minute is
Yeah.
definitely fun to watch. But
I
yeah,
love it because he never played a good serious heel. When I first started covering NXT, and it was him going up against Tommaso, and they're both just bad guys who hate each other, and it's like I wasn't sold. But now he's a bit more of a goofy heel. I enjoy it. He's actually quite funny. So again, not to start talking about NXT, but the reason that I think NXT is improving anyway. But yeah, for me they were very similar this week.
sound. So Anthony, the final television show of the week is SmackDown.
Don't want to do it.
Oh,
Should we just do Full Gear?
Oh no.
No, right, all right, let's talk about SmackDown. So, in a strange decision, we opened the night with Banks versus Bailey 2, even banksier than the last one. All right. So we had a rematch for the women's title opening the show. Interesting. Naturally, Banks won because she's not going to drop the title straight after the pay. That wouldn't happen to her, would it? Anyway, we then have a sort of a interview promo segment with Jey Uso backstage, which we will talk about a little bit more. It's definitely my highlights, I'll say that much. We had a match between Rey Mysterio and Baron Corbin, another qualifier match for the Survivor Series team, with Baron Corbin taking the win. We had Ruby Riott going up against Selena, going up against Natalya, with Ruby Riott taking the win, and this was another Survivor Series qualifier. We had Otis going up against Seth Rollins. I hope it was a Survivor Series qualifier, because otherwise it made no fucking sense, with Rollins taking the win. And we had Kevin Owens taking on Jey Uso. And I failed to write down who won, but I know it, luckily. It was Jey Uso. And that's the card, Carl. That's the card. So, as far as highlights go, I kind of only have one. And the entire highlight is based around Roman Reigns. And who would have thought when we started doing this podcast, and most of the time I'd moan about the man, that that's what I'd be saying right now. I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. And I don't think I'm truly wrong in that sense, because he wasn't being booked well when I was complaining about him. And I've always stressed we only complain about the character. The work they're doing now is fantastic. They open the night, or the opening promo, Jey Uso was being asked about everything he did to Daniel Bryan last week. And he's having this interview with, I think it was Kayla Braxton or whoever does the backstage interviews for SmackDown now, and was interrupted by Paul Heyman, and was like, it just showed you the sort of control Roman's keeping on everything, because basically Roman hadn't authorized this interview, so he had to have words with Jey, and Paul Heyman sort of intervened and spoke to him about it. We then had them talking about the Kevin Owens problem, because Kevin Owens has sort of disrespected Jey and Roman, so this led to the main event. Jey doing everything he could to take out Kevin Owens in the match, and then ultimately having Roman's music hit being the thing that caused the distraction for the win. Everything just worked so seamlessly and did really well for pushing, the tribal chief as the boss, and again pushing this reluctant heel thing with Jey, which I do enjoy. It's like, he's a bad guy because he has to follow the blood. Blood's thicker than water, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I couldn't be happier with the way they're doing the storyline. I think it's some of the best work WWE have done in a while.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I agree on the most part. I think the thing that seems still a bit strange to me is the fact that it is Roman and Jey Uso, or Jimmy Uso, where the fuck it is.
Jimmy's out of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's good, obviously, everything that's happened and stuff, and like the family and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think what's going to happen when Jimmy comes back, because that's still to be decided. But don't get me wrong. I think the stuff with Heyman, where he's like, "Well, has Roman approved this?" and stuff, like that was epic, and it was obviously Kevin Owens being like, "Oh, well, apparently you're just going to get him coffee now," and stuff, and it was a bit like, "Oh, okay." So he seems very conflicted, shall we say, which, as you would be if you just lost a bet almost, to be put your cousin ahead of you. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm quietly hopeful, right, that we're ultimately going to get like Jimmy. It hopefully is a quicker program, but Jimmy's going to come back and fall in line. Maybe with some reluctance, maybe a match or two. Nothing as long as we had with Jay, but Jimmy's going to come back and fall in line, and then we're going to have this little faction built up, and then we're ultimately, and I really sincerely at this point now, I hope we get it, where we get The Rock, being the one who maybe comes in to try and deal with the way Roman is now and what he's doing to the family. And I'll be honest, I kind of want The Rock to lose if they do that as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Nothing to get Roman over more with it, let's be honest. Being that heel and getting that kind of heat. I don't know. For me, in my mind, it would work really well if he's still playing the heel character at that point. And, this is sort of fantasy booking because I don't know if The Rock would even have the time at the minute for that sort of stuff. But, it kind of makes sense when we're looking at the family line and who else is going to rival the tribal chief within the family.
I mean, it's building nicely to that, isn't it? But I think everything going on in the world right now, do you think The Rock will be available for WrestleMania Hollywood if there's no fans in attendance?
I mean, The Rock, and it's Hollywood themed. And we've got a vaccine coming in December, apparently. You never know. We can always dream.
I mean, I would love to see Rock,
and so could the millions and millions of The Rock's fans.
I would love to see Rock and Roman, and I think, obviously The Rock doesn't need to go over, does he? But at the same time, I think if Reigns is going to go over, he's going to have to be committed to being that heel. Whereas I feel like the minute he's acting a heel, but is he going to be a heel for the long run? That's the thing. Still,
I think he's playing this nice guy, but deep down evil guy way too well to pull away from it anytime soon, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like the way he is with Jimmy, he's like, I love you, we're family, but really he's an absolute evil bastard. Like he's doing it too well. So he needs to stay heel for a good while for me, and I hope they don't sort of go right. So we did the heel thing you've all been asking for. Can we do the face thing again now? Sells more merch. I hope they don't do that.
Well, I mean, it is WWE, so definitely going to happen at some point.
So I'll move on to Mio Shites, Carl, because that was my only highlights. I mean, it was a couple of different instances in the night, but everything they did with that build around the Tribal Chief and Jay and Kevin Owens match, all really good stuff. As for Mio Shites, Carl, obviously the opener, Bayley versus Banks 2. As these things tend to go, wasn't as good as Bayley versus Banks 1. And then we have the end of the match. Banks obviously won. And we have Carmella come out, land Banks, and make it clear that she wants to go for their belt. Now, I'm not trying to moan here, Carl. And I'm hoping you might be able to even potentially clarify this for me. But other than like wearing like a PVC suit of some sort, what has Carmella changed gimmick-wise?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because everyone's like, oh, it's a real change in character. In what way? Everyone changes their clothes.
I mean, I suppose she's coming across more heel, but I don't think it links in with the whole vignettes that we had with, untouchable and I'm going to wear no clothes kind of thing.
Yeah. So, like, other than the fact that, like, I don't think a character change seems to have been significant enough to merit, like, months worth of fucking videos. Just who's coming, who's arriving. It's gonna be a big surprise. Ends up being Carmella in a different outfit. That was worth the wait. But other than that, and I mentioned it before, so I'm not going to harp on too much. But why is it Carmella? No offense, Carmella, but like your history with WWE on the main roster has been jobbing out to people. So why are we meant to even believe you're a realistic threat? Why can you come in and challenge straight away? I don't know, other than pissing her off, so she might want to have a match with you. And for me, if you're going to give someone a singles push and you're going to try and build them to a singles push, why not move that person, that certain Peyton Royce, to SmackDown as part of the draft pick and have her go up against her? Exact same position as Carmella. Come out and lay your claim. Would have worked better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not as against it as you are. I think I don't want to see Sasha Bailey. I don't want to see Sasha Bailey anymore. I think the match they put on SmackDown was fantastic. It was definitely the highlight of the show for me.
But it certainly weren't as strong as the pay-per-view match, though.
No, definitely not. But obviously, whenever these two get together, and I think it had the additional kind of grandeur to it that, well, do you know what? Sasha's never fucking defended a belt before in her life. So it's kind of like, is it going to be the same again? So there was that whole story as well, which kind of got me a bit invested. But yeah, I think for Carmella, from a character standpoint, is she anything new or fresh? No. Is she slightly different to what she was before? Maybe. But at the same time, she is a way to transition Banks away from Bayley, at least in the short term. And I don't know, if they build it right, and if they, this is the first time we saw Carmella since the promos, isn't it? And she's come out, stated claim she wants the belt, and fucked off. And I don't mind that. Like, if she would have come out and been like, I'm the fucking Queen of Staten Island, and I'm no different, but now I write untouchable on a mirror, then okay, I would have been a bit more annoyed. But she's come out, beat her up, fucked off, and it's like, okay, so I can get behind it, but I think it's going to depend heavily on where they go from here.
Well, the only thing I can hope, and this is an unusual thing to hope because normally I moan about feuds not getting anywhere, but I hope that she has some really good matches over the next few weeks that prove that she can have some dominance, because her going up against Banks in a match too soon now would just make me go, well, she's going to lose. Like, that's that then. But yeah, I'm not sold on it, but whatever. You're entitled to your opinion, Carl. So, Carl, this is one we can definitely agree on, right? Every part of this night, and sadly there was many parts of this night that involved Rey Mysterio or Seth Rollins or Dominic or Aaliyah or Murphy or anything to do with that fucking clusterfuck of a storyline was just awful. And now we're including Baron Corbin, we're including Otis as well, because there was just weren't enough people involved in all of this. But no, joking aside, obviously Rollins distracted Rey. Rey got his own back in some way. Then we have, is Murphy truly betraying Rollins? Why did he help him? Ooh, who knows? I'm like, I don't care. Just let it go. Sick of this shit. Rey finally is back in the ring. We had him up against Baron Corbin. It was actually not a bad match. Nah, let's have some shenanigans. Just waste of energy. And we've never been overly enamored on this whole storyline anyway, but now they're trying to, like, what was this whole thing with the Buddy sort of helping Seth win?
Well, apparently it's for the greater good, Anthony, and he knows what he's doing. So,
but it just, I don't know. Like, for
me,
Anthony,
it's for the greater good, and he knows what he's doing.
But they haven't even got like Rey and Dominic on side with Buddy yet, and now they're throwing doubts in there as well. Like, shouldn't that have been done when he's like part of the family or whatever you're doing? I don't even know. Stupid. Whole thing's stupid. Speaking of stupid, my last shite, Carl, is just having another interview with Lars, or the Freak, or Sullivan, or whatever they want to call him this time. I don't get what they want with this. I really don't get what they like. They're doing a fantastic job of making the character of the Freak, or Lars Sullivan, just as unlikable as the real person, right? It was just a total mess in some senses. Like, they carry on with essentially the same story we've already got in a way, and the same idea we've got, where he's a freak and he beats people up and may have killed people, we're not too sure. And I think this week he referred to them making them eat stuff and laughing, and you're like, the fuck is this? Like, why has he stopped having matches? He only had like 3. So yeah, whole thing with the interview with Lars, and I hope we're not going to keep getting these interviews. Put him back in the ring, for God's sake.
I mean, is that much better?
It's not much worse. So that was the last O'Shea, Carl. So it wasn't not a particularly eventful SmackDown, not a particularly offensive SmackDown either. But I mean, for me, I'm going to be fair. It had a couple of good matches. I enjoyed the Roman stuff. A bit annoyed with the finish to a couple of matches because they looked like they were going to be good and it didn't work out. A la Rey Mysterio Corbin. I think I'd give it a 2.
Do you know what? Surprisingly, I will agree. I thought the Sasha Bayley match was really good. I thought The other women's match was quite good as well. Ruby, Zelina, Natalia. I thought the
Sorry,
finish.
I probably
that
should have
was-
moaned about that. The only issue I had with that one was the fact that Natalia was in it again.
Yeah,
Like, lose your first chance, just get another one. Who cares?
I mean, it's no surprise that they've not known what to do with Natalia for a while now. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the finish was clever. I think the fact that Natalia had the sharpshooter and then Ruby Riott came in with the crossface or whatever the fuck she put on, or the armbar, whatever it was, and then Natalia's like, "Well, what's going on?" and like breaks the hold, and then all of a sudden there's a tap. I don't know. I thought it was clever. I thought it was different.
Yeah. No, as I say, it wasn't a bad match. The main bugbear for me was just that Natalia lost last week, so didn't qualify, but can just have another attempt.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
They've fucking got no one, though, have they? Let's be honest.
Exactly. There's no roster, so they have to. But no, you're quite right. I think it was the crossface, wasn't it? Ruby was doing. But yeah, no, I'll give you that. And I failed to mention it, but again, didn't really hit a highlight for me, but it was good. It was a good match. There you go. 2's all round.
Hey, everybody. This is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K.